Imagine a friend that has been dead for years shows up at your door. What do you think? This person looks like your friend, but is ghoulish and continues to moan and groan. She is moving so slowly and has such pale skin. It is as if she rose from the dead as a zombie. Although zombies have never actually been proven to exist, there are several definitions of what a zombie would be. A zombie is a dead human that has been reanimated to a state between life and death, or a human in a death-like state that strips them of cognition, will, and other mental or spiritual traits most considered unique to humanity. It is believed that notions of the first zombies appeared during the Black Plague, the Key West hurricane, the HIV/AIDS epidemic, the anthrax attack, or they may not have ever actually appeared at all.
Well, the Black Death is an epidemic on an unimaginable scale, which swept across Europe in the mid-14th century, killing, we now believe, and the records are very good, up to half of the population, 1 in 2 of the population, in the space of 7 years.
It's caused by a bacterium, which is called Yersinia pestis. The bacterium evolved actually from a harmless, non-pathogenic bacterium that normally lives in the soil. But the pathogenic Yersinia pestis is spread by fleas, which in turn are spread by rats. It's believed that the rats moved around on ships as part of trade at the time in medieval Europe. But more recently, there have been outbreaks of the plague in North America and South America, for example. So it's very much, although we think of the plague as something that happened a long time ago and sort of decimated European populations then, it is still very much an ongoing concern, and it's a very important pathogen today.
Many symptoms of the Black Death are similar to those believed as zombies, and coincidentally, during the time of the Black Death, several stories of the Walking Dead began to pop up across Europe. People with the Black Plague symptoms, including passing out, falling into a brief comatose state, and internal bleeding, could experience these symptoms, assumed to be dead, and then buried alive. So when it appears as though someone is rising from the dead, they were in reality never dead. Although these occurrences may seem far-fetched, there were so many reported instances that it seems likely that the Black Death could have indeed been a zombie apocalypse.
In addition to probing into the genetic basis of what made the bacterium so infectious at the time, allowed the authors to look at the evolution of the existing strains. And one of the surprising things that they find is that all of the strains that are present in the world today originate from those strains that were around in medieval Europe in the middle of 14th century.
Paradoxically, society was able to cope much better in the 14th century with deaths on this horrendous scale than we would be able to cope today. And this is primarily because people were, to a degree, self-sufficient and independent, whereas today we have such complex interconnections that deaths on anything like that scale would cause complete chaos.
It's interesting to consider whether Yersinia pestis will return in force in a similar way to what we experienced in the Middle Ages. It's really very difficult to say, considering that today humans respond to the infection much better than in that time. It's probably not very likely. But one thing to bear in mind, of course, is that there might be other infections that arise, new pathogens that arise, evolve, indeed bacteria that acquire pathogenicity in a similar way that Yersinia pestis acquired from its predecessor, which was in fact a free-living, non-pathogenic, completely benign soil bacterium.
In 1935, Key West experienced a large hurricane that left severe damage to the area, resulting in about 500 casualties. Consequently, there were an abundance of bodies gathered and waiting to be buried. Survivors of the storm resembled the idea of zombies, as they wandered dazed and confused in search of aid. Because of the disheveled appearance and disoriented motions, people feared they were victims who had returned from the dead.
The AIDS epidemic is believed to have started somewhere in Africa. At the start of 1981, there was a noted increase of Kaposi sarcoma, a rare and usually benign cancer seen mostly in the elderly. There was little known about the new disease, but it was rapidly infecting a large number of people. It was originally thought in July of 1981 that there were not any cases outside of the homosexual community or in women. But 5 months later in December, the disease was known to have spread to multiple population groups, and by August, the disease was referred to as AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. AIDS is the late stage of an HIV infection when a person's immune system is severely damaged and they have difficulty fighting diseases and certain cancers. There are 2 types of HIV, HIV-1 and HIV-2. HIV-1 is much more active and easily transmitted. It can be broken into 3 major groups of gene composition, and subtype B was seen to spread through Haiti viciously. Many Americans believed Haitians brought the disease to America and linked HIV to Haitian voodoo rituals. Haitians said that homosexual American sex tourists brought it to their country. As ancient practitioners of voodoo, it was assumed that the AIDS victims who became zombie-like were actually Nazambi. Nazambi were those who had been placed under voodoo zombie rituals involving powerful drugs and toxins that replicated a death-like state. Just like a zombie apocalypse, AIDS wreaked havoc throughout Haiti and its population.
Recognized to pose one of the greatest possible threats to public health. Whenever an outbreak of anthrax is detected, the State Health Department must immediately alert the Centers for Disease Control. The CDC is the United States government's highest authority on infectious diseases. The scientists, doctors, and disease experts must maintain the public health and safety of the 307 million people of the United States.
The features of anthrax, including skin sores and blisters, would become very severe and resemble a zombie. The symptoms of the virus varied based on the mode of transmission and making certain traits easily recognized while others were not. People who did not have blisters would not know they had the virus, yet they could still transmit it to others just like a zombie apocalypse would spread. Since there was no cure for anthrax, it was difficult to control and easily spread.
The CDC has been involved with the investigation of every case of anthrax that has occurred since the Anthrax Investigation Unit at CDC was first initiated in 1955.
Anthrax is a naturally occurring infectious disease. Anthrax spores can lie undetected for centuries in the dirt or in contaminated animal products, just waiting to infect a human host. But the true threat of anthrax is its devastating potential as a terrorist weapon. Anthrax spores are tiny, invisible, and once inhaled, our bodies are completely defenseless.
What we knew about anthrax was that people, when they get it, and when they get inhalational anthrax, they die.
When anthrax spores are inhaled, they travel into our lungs and replicate rapidly, eventually flooding the body with millions of deadly toxins with the power to dissolve human tissue.
There are many different theories and assumptions about when and where the first zombies appeared, but the truth is still unknown, seeing as none of the patient zeros have been proven to actually exist as zombies.
During certain epidemics and natural disasters, zombies were said to have been spotted, but whether these were actual zombies or just the effects of a crisis is unknown. A zombie apocalypse has yet to happen fully where zombies take over the world, but the different glimpses of zombie-like symptoms and appearances leave a possibility of one happening in the future.
By looking at past examples in history and learning from them, it is easier to prepare the world for anything, even zombies. Zombies aren't real.
Or are they?